So in this video, we're going to talk about how to use the file input stream to read a file. So I went ahead and create an iOS streams project here, as you can see. So I encourage you to go ahead and do the same. And I also created something else. So I created a .text file. So if you double click on this, you can see it says testing again, man. So we can get rid of that and save again. Okay, so it's saved. So how do you do that? So if you're on Windows, simply just create a text file. So go to, I think on Windows it will be a notepad, and on Mac you just go to text. I think it's edit text. You go to edit text and create a text file. Okay, and then once you make that file, just drag it and put inside of the project. And make sure when you put inside of the project, you put at the source level, right? Don't put inside of the package name. Just put here inside of the source level. So that way, when you close, whatever's inside our package, you can still see it. Okay, perfect. So then I have this read inputs.java class here, which has our main method, entry point. So how do we go about reading what's inside of this test.text file here, okay, which just says testing? Well, the first thing we need to do, let me go ahead and comment this out because we won't be needing it. So the first thing we need to do is to create a file. So in order for us to read a file, obviously we have to create that file. Likely, Java has a class called file. As you can see, it comes from java.io package. Okay, so say file. I'm going to just name it file is equal to new file. And look what happens here. So new file, we have to pass in a path name to where the file we are wanting to read is located. So if we go enter, so where is the path? Well, the path is under source and then the file name. So what we do, we just go and notice the path is going to be a string. So we're going to say src, stands for source, as you see here in this folder, / and just say test.txt. All right. So now this file here points to our test.text text file. Next, we're going to go ahead and say try. Right? We're going to use a try catch block there. Now we're going to do something very specific here. We're going to say try, and we are going to put parentheses. Inside, we're going to say file input stream, because that's what we need. So we're going to call this f file input stream is equal to new file input stream. Now notice the file input stream constructor requires a file. Well, likely we have that file there, so we can just go ahead and send in a file. So we are creating a handle called file input stream, which will go and get the file which we created here. So that way we can then start reading what's inside of it, right? And notice we put inside of try because, as we know, every time we're doing things that we're not sure how the system will react or whether we're getting the information we need or not, we need to always use try and catch. Just that way, if something goes wrong, we have a way of failing gracefully. So here, let's go ahead and say system.out println. For now, let's just say total size to read in bytes is, let's say, file input stream dot available. So that's just the method that we get from our file input stream handle here that we are getting. Okay, because again, this file input stream is holding the file ready to be read. So now what we're saying, we're just going to go ahead and get the byte size, how big this file is. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and save this and give it a run and see what's going to happen. Well, okay, there it goes. It says it's 9. So the size to read in bytes is 9. Okay. Not a lot of information, but there will be cases when you're writing a program that you need to know what is the size of the file, things that you're going to be reading anyway. So that's good. Good to know. And notice also if we go back here and say access dot There's a lot of other things that we can get. Okay, information that we can get. For now, just say available. Perfect. Now, how do we then get the content of this file? Well, simply let's go ahead and say int content, and then we can say while. Okay, we can say content is equal to file stream, file input stream, of course. And notice here, we'll say dot read, and we go to read. It's an int type, so returns an integer, and it says reads a byte of data from this input stream. So notice if you go dot read, there we go, the read file input stream is used. So it says here reads a byte of data from this input stream. This method blocks if no input is yet available. Okay. Now it says returns the next byte of data, or -1 if the end of the file is reached. So here what we can say, well, if content is getting all of the stuff from our file and hasn't reached the end of that file, okay, which means if that is not equal to -1, then we know we haven't reached the end of the file, which means keep reading, keep getting all of the information from the file. That's when we actually get that content. Okay, so now we can say, now we need to convert to char and display it. Let's go system out print. Let's use print instead of println. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and say char, right? Because we want to make sure that the bytes coming out are actually converted into characters so we can actually see and read. Okay, so content, there we go. Save this and run testing. And it is indeed what we have for testing here. Just to make sure we can convince ourselves that we are not just delusional, let's say hello world, something like that. Save, go back here and just run. It should say hello world. So whatever you change here to be and say hello again, hi again, and save and run, and you get all of that stuff. Okay, because again, look, we have more than one line, because again, it goes here and say, well, if whatever it's coming in as bytes and hasn't reached -1, or it's not -1, which means it hasn't reached the end of the file, just keep reading. So we can put the size of the Bible here, it will still keep reading. All right, perfect. So while we're here, let's go ahead and actually put something here. As you know now about exceptions, in this case, this is just a general exception, but this one here, since we talk about input and output, so IO exception, so we can just go ahead and use this, say IO exception there. Since we know the E is of type IO exception, so we'll have all the messages and functions that we can use to help us debug, know what error, what exception happened, so we can just go ahead and say E dot print. So this print stack trace essentially will give you all the details up to where the exception happened. Okay, so it's very detailed error log, if you will. Okay, so there we go. So save that and run. Perfect. Now let's do something really here so we can see what error it's going to show here. Let's say purposely let's put D here, F, that way it's an error. Okay, let's go. What's going to happen? It says you right away source TextFile, no such file directory, right? So it gives you a more detail. Okay, so let's put back there, T, save and run, and we are back. And next, I will show you how to also write into files as well as saving things into files. What I want you to do right now is to create other files. For instance, you can create numbers.txt and try to read those numbers or those lines and all that stuff, okay? And again, go ahead and explore this. You don't be afraid of breaking things, right? This is the whole idea of learning this new language. This language is that the more you explore, the better you'll get at it, okay? So don't be afraid of exploring and doing some research, trying to figure out other things too. That's what separates good developers from bad programmers, right? Because is the ability to break things and figure out ways to fix them. So you break things by trying things, right? So go ahead, and if you have any questions, of course, always contact me, and I'll gladly help. All right? Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.